Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Now let's give a warm welcome to our main speaker, Lee C.
I'm Lee, an alcoholic. What memories, but not in this room. Chuck didn't share that Malibu was a Saturday night home group. And we used to meet in a courthouse on Pacific Coast Highway. And this is before I sobered up. He would take me out on a Saturday night. We'd have a date. We were married. And I fell in love with Alcoholics Anonymous, but I sure didn't want to give up the booze. And the secretary, Bob H., at that particular time was setting up the meeting, and they'd have the jury box, the seats, the non-smokers in the jury box, and the ashtrays all around, and I'd go down after we had dinner, and I'd help Bob set up the meeting, and I'd walk around like this because I didn't want him smelling my non-smelling vodka. Because I could not go to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous without a drink, because I knew one of you at least would walk over to me and say, "Hi, Lee," or "Hi, Lee, the lush," because I didn't come here to stop drinking, but I just wanted to let you know that my husband, my beautiful man, set an example in our household, and the beating stopped when he sobered up, because we were beating the hell out of one another. And when Chuck couldn't get a guy to go on a call with him, and I was coming off a drunk, he'd say, "Lee, do you want to go on a call with me?" So I was 12-stepping before I sobered up, but I think he took me along to set an example how not to be. Anyway, I'm here to share a little bit of what I was like, what happened, and what I'm trying to live through today. And with this program has saved my life, my sanity. And for me, we go through a lot, but let me get back to a little bit of the beginning. I'm not from an alcoholic family, and I was born in Detroit, and that's 50% of the reason why I'm an alcoholic. If any of you are from Detroit, you know what I'm talking about. There was no one in my large family, cousins, aunts, and uncles, that had a drinking problem. I'm the only one that had one. I don't have one today because I'm a sober lady in Alcoholics Anonymous. But I had the personality of some of you in this room. By the time I was 13, I had 9 musical instruments in a 1-bedroom apartment. We lived on the 3rd floor, and my major instrument were the drums. I had a crush on a drummer in a big band, and I thought if I played the drums I could communicate with him. And I'm about 13 or 14, and I'd get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get down to the big theaters in Detroit to make goo-goo eyes at the drummer. Now he's up at the bandstand, and I'm down below in the 1st row eating candy bars. I had the original afro. I had a straight body, no waistline, slim legs, and I'm sitting there eating 10 candy bars and making goo-goo eyes at this drummer. I think when I was about 15, I got a date with him. And how, I can't remember. But he took me to his hotel room and gave me one of those funny kisses, and I split because I thought I'd become pregnant. Now, my mother didn't teach me anything. From the Jewish family, when you become a woman, you get a whack across the face. That's all. They don't tell you anything. So I was very disillusioned with this drummer, but I had a short musical career for some of you musicians in this room. I ended up playing in an all-girl orchestra, 5 pieces. The leader played the violin and the accordion, so it was called an orchestra. And I was about 16, and the bar that I played in, on the windows it said, no one under 21, Michigan State, no one under 21 can be in the premises or drink. Now, I couldn't play the drums sober, ever. I still can't. Tried it at my 50th, our 50th anniversary, and David was around. I don't know where you're sitting, but Terry tried to get me up to the drums, and I couldn't even play with the sticks, for goodness sake. Yes, I did? Oh, okay. Anyway, the only way I could play those drums, we'd play 9 to 2 in the morning, 9 in the evening till 2 in the morning, and I'd get there at 7 o'clock, and the bartender would set me up with zombies. Now, I'm 16 years old, and I used fake identification. Someone told me to use ink eradicator, and please don't do it. And in those years, I would wear the big updos, like Lana Turner and Sheridan. And I know you've seen some of the old movies. Now, I never looked like them, but I had the hairdos like them. I had the voice of Ann Sheridan, you know, the whiskey voice. Anyway, I disliked Detroit very much. And I wanted to come to Southern California. I'd lived here for a year with my parents when I was about 13. So instead of asking my parents for the fare, I hocked my drums for $125, set out to California by bus. This bus had no toilet facilities. And I sat behind the bus driver, knowing that he's going to protect me. I had not been out of the state of Michigan without my parents. They never traveled anyway. My dad was a workaholic. He worked like 23 hours a day. Anyway, we had to pick up passengers that were, this was in St. Louis. We picked up passengers that were coming from New York, and this young man that got on the bus was wearing a zoot suit, a big brim hat, and he sat down next to me, and I'm behind the driver, and for 5 days we covered ourselves with a blanket and became very good friends. And last May 31st, we celebrated 53 years. Whoa. Now, believe me, for 25 of those 53 years, you know, that was the battleground of World War III, 4, 5, 6, and 7, because we're both, thank God, sober members of Alcoholics Anonymous. And you've heard mention of the steps for you new people. I had to apply the steps to me in order for this marriage and my sobriety, and work at all these steps in my marriage. That's my affair. That's one of my affairs. And that's, I know today, why we celebrated 53 years, because we're sober. Wasn't always like that. We were 2 drunks in the same household. Oh, we were married within 10 days. It was a World War II marriage. I was pregnant, and he was taken away from me. You heard part of his background about cops. Well, the MPs grabbed him, so he was in a zoot suit. And so I'm back in Detroit having our son, and waiting for the Dear John or Dear Jean or Dear Jane letter, because it's a World War II marriage. But Chuck came back into my life when our boy was 15 months old. And then we moved to Florida, and then out here to California. We've been in California 48 years. And this was not Malibu, I don't think, when we came out here. I don't know what county it was. We were so crazy that we were living on the west side of Los Angeles in Culver City area, and we used to take the Sepulveda Pass, there was no freeway or anything, to the valley now. It's, what, 10 minutes away, 15 minutes away on a weekend, so we could have a swimming pool at a motel and drink. Now, that's the way we'd spend our weekends. The neighbors wouldn't hear. Well, they heard plenty. Anyway, because it's I've got to share this fantastic program and my life and what it has given to me and to us and to many, many people that have been in our lives. Our boy watched the two of us kill one another, and the next day we're kissing one another. I was involved in Cub Scouts first, and the boys could not do their projects on a couch or at a table. They had to sit on the floor. I was the kind of a housewife, and I'm sure some of you gals will identify. I washed and waxed my floors once a week. Me. Did my own cleaning. And when my husband and son would come home, I'd be just zonked, and one of them would have to carry me into the bedroom or push me into the bedroom. It got to a point that we would drink together. We even found a place. I couldn't dance with my New York jitterbug sober. So we found a live music in Beverly Hills at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. And about 2-3 nights a week, we would head for the bar. The bartender would give us one drink, and we would close up the place. And most of the time, they would let me play the drums, but I would be zonked, and I was able to dance with my husband. But it got as my alcoholism progressed, and I didn't know it, they started 86ing us. Now, they had all the bookmakers at that time there, anyone from whatever mob there was, hanging around there. But they would, we'd either be escorted by the police because if there was a different group playing, and they wouldn't let me play the drums because I didn't have a union card. So we'd be kicked out because we'd start a war. So our reputation followed us till, and we stopped going to places with live music, and I didn't like to dance to music in a box. Anyway, got involved in Little League, sought out a mother that drank just like I did and used to buy the food for the Saturday game, bring the bottle with us to the refreshment stand. And if our boys got to play, we drank. And if the boys sat on the bench, we drank. So I never, ever got home from a Little League game sober. And my son would look up at me and say, "Mother, why do you drink so much?" And I'd point my finger right at my husband. Now, any of you new people here, then the next day Chuck would ask me, "Lee, why do you drink so much?" And I'd point my finger right at my son. Now, these three fingers were always being pointed back at me, and I didn't know it until I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, because neither my son nor my husband bend my elbow. I did it myself. A lot of people say they didn't like what alcohol did to them or didn't like the taste. I love the taste. Most of all, I love what it did to me, for me, and it brought me to Alcoholics Anonymous and gave me a life. It gave me a fantastic life. I, too, I heard so much talk about service from the birthday people, and that's what kept me in good stead. As I said, Chuck's home group was Malibu, and I loved looking forward to it, even though I drank the whole day. If I wasn't too drunk, he would take me with him to the meeting. Many times I would take him, we had one car at the time, I would take him to the Beverly Hills Men's Stag and head out to Brentwood Women's Al-Anon. And I would drop him off, pick up a bottle, and drink all the way to the Al-Anon meeting. And when I sobered up, a lot of the Al-Anon women asked me where I'd been. I said, "Well, I'm an alcoholic and I need Alcoholics Anonymous." They said, "But we miss your stories." Now, till this day, a day at a time, next month, I'll be 25 years sober, and I don't know one story. That hasn't been revealed to me of what I told them. Complete blackout in every one of the Al-Anon meetings I went to. Weird. Now, I don't know how many of you, but I heard the young man with 23 years talk about working with others, and that's my cup of tea, because I started. Now, let me get to how I sobered up the first time. Now, you know, when two alcoholics live in the same household, that we're sneaking. I'm hiding bottles under the mattress and forgetting to remove them. And when we're making love, the bottles are clicking together, and I'm kicked out of bed, and I don't care, because my alcoholism now is very, very visible, because I'm crawling to the drape in the living room and getting my stash that I have hidden so Chuck can't see it. And I don't care. Whereas when we first met, it was my man first, then my booze. Then in the early 50s, it changed. My alcohol, I needed that more. I have driven school buses, thank God, without kids, and taking it to Hollywood Park and losing it, taking it to Gardenia and losing it. You know,
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
the reason I have to share this losing of the school bus, it's funny, it's tragic, but as many meetings that I've shared at outlying areas, someone always comes over to me. Now, particularly one in Riverside, a young, very young woman came up to me and said, "I'm sober 8 days and I still drive the school bus, and I drive drunk." And I gave her my phone, and this is many years ago. I gave her my phone number, never heard from her, but one day I'm praying that this gal will say, "Lee, that was me that you gave your phone number to, lost it." But one day. Then on another occasion in Anaheim, I was in the ladies' room after I shared, and a little old gal, now I'm a little old gal, but this is many years ago, she looked up at me and said, "Lee, I can top your story." She says, "I was at Dodger Stadium with a full bus of 65 children. I lost it, and they announced it over the loudspeaker." So someday I am waiting for one of these gals to walk up to me after the meeting and tell me that they heard about the school bus. And lots of times after sharing, someone will come up and say the only part of their story that they remember, my story, is the school bus. "Well, are you going to talk about that tonight?" Well, that's the school bus for now. Anyway, in 1968, that's a tragic year and a gift year. I had been going to meetings, raising my hand, but not giving up the booze. I knew I was an alcoholic. When they didn't meet in the courthouse, they were meeting at Tutu's dance studio in Malibu. And I would sit next to one of the other members who had the same idea I did, chipping around with the program. We'd sit together and we'd smell our own booze, see. Hopefully he's back in New York acting on stage. I haven't heard about him recently. But we did the same thing. We chip it around and then sobered up about the same time. But Chuck would go on calls and again take me with, and then one particular day he couldn't get any guy, and he was down in central office, and he called home. He said, "Lee, do you want to go on a call with me?" And we went to Upper Skid Row, just above Alvarado. And this guy lived above a liquor store. And Chuck knocks on the door and said, "I'm from Alcoholics Anonymous." And a little guy come over to the door, opened it up, and he's naked. And he says, "Wait a minute." And he runs and he grabs a towel, covers his front, and apologizes to me. Now, I'm shaking like a leaf because I'm coming off a drunk. But this guy hadn't been out for 3 weeks, and he was filthy and it stunk, and we gave him a bath. But the one thing that I'll never, ever forget is he had welts coming out of every part of his face. Long welts, like the length of my finger, but in every part of his face. I was too sick myself to even pay any attention to throw up. I mean, today possibly, I don't know. But after I sobered up, it was a few years later, a little guy come running up to me and said, "Thank you, Lee, thank you, Lee." I said, "My name is Lee." He said, "I know." And he gave me his name. And he said, "Don't you remember taking me to a 12-step house?" And that was 5 years. I mean, something was setting in. Here I'm still drinking. Something is setting in. And I heard somewhere, you don't hear till you want to hear, and you don't see until you want to see. And it was starting to happen. I wanted to get sober and just couldn't stop drinking. And still going to meetings. And I would only call the guys. This one particular gal that I called, she read me out, called me every name in the book, called me every phony when she took me to a meeting. And that didn't help. Calling me names didn't mean a damn thing. Now, in November, well, it was August. It's 28 years this year. August the 5th, two big detectives came up to our apartment to tell us our boy was dead of an overdose. He was 23. And he'd been going around, he had been through in his teens, later teens, shaving his head and joining motorcycle groups. And in our drunkenness, we'd bail him out of jail. I would drive downtown and go to the valley and try to find him. And then now he's back home and he's living, we had a 2-bedroom apartment. And it didn't appear that he was using anything because he hated booze. He saw what it did to us, so he never ever even drank a glass of wine. And when the detectives told us that he was dead, Chuck had a heart attack, and he was rushed to UCLA for 8 days in intensive care. And my dad and I went down that night to identify my son's body. I'll never forget that slab. And if any of you are thinking, now it was his best friend's, 2 months later I found out it was murder, and how I wanted to get even. Oh boy. And I'm still drinking, more so. But I'll never forget that slab. And if any of you are just thinking a little bit of using anything, because you never know what's in it. Anyway, there was never it's undetermined death on his death certificate. There wasn't one mark on him. And this kid stood 6'2", a couple 100 pounds. No one could beat him up. And yet, in my drunkenness, I would call the detectives that were working on the case. I called radio stations. They'd hang up on me because I was so damn drunk. One detective said, "I'm finding too many dead bodies in Venice in the barrel. I don't have time for you." That's exactly what happened. So I went on my merry way trying to kill myself with booze. The day came, and I'm going in and I'm listening to someone at meetings, and I'm hearing my sponsor talk about losing a kid. She had 5 kids, and 2 of them are in her sobriety. She lost 2. Now here I'm not even sober. She was setting an example for her whole family. She and her husband were both on the program. Anyway, November the 10th of 1968, we were invited to a party out in Torrance. And all I remember is the first drink. I worked with this gal in a drugstore, and she invited us to an open house. Now, on the way home, there were no dividers on the freeway. It's just that chain link fence. And I screamed out at Chuck, "I can't live without Don. I'm going to kill myself, and I'm going to take you with me." And I put my foot on the accelerator and rode about 200 yards, and we hit something. And it stopped the car, and 2 ambulances took us both to a different hospital. I slept my drunk off in a hospital, and Chuck was kept overnight to monitor his heart. And the next day, November the 11th of 1968, he found his program, and that was our son's 23rd birthday. Would have been his 23rd birthday. And I continued on, but would go to meetings and go on calls with him. he made a year. How in the hell he did it? Come home and pour my booze out, and then someone on the program told him, leave her drink herself to death. If you have to step over her, which he did. Well, I would come to the meeting in Malibu, and I knew he was going to take a cake here, and it happened to fall on November the 15th of '69. And I planned a party for all his friends, because I couldn't be a friend. I wasn't a friend to myself. So I planned a party. I was going to give him the cake in Malibu at the courthouse. And I got him out of the apartment early and drank the whole day to celebrate his first year. Very clever thinking for this alcoholic. Oh. But he came home, he grabbed the keys to the car, called a member, and they took him to Malibu, and I proceeded to call a cab to take me from West LA, from Palms, to Malibu courthouse. It didn't happen. My downstairs neighbor, whose husband was still practicing, she was an active member of Al-Anon, she came up, and another member of Al-Anon, and I'm very grateful for that fantastic program. The two of them stayed with me, watched me finish my last drink, and I was a gracious hostess. So they tell me, and the next day I went to the Ohio noon meeting, raised my hand, and it didn't shake, and I didn't throw up green. See, at the end of my drinking, I was drinking vodka and Funny Face. I hated vodka, but I put that diet drink Funny Face in so I wouldn't be a fat alcoholic. You know. And I'd come to meetings with green teeth, green tongue, and I'd dry heave, and I hope I'm making somebody sick that's thinking of a drink, or whatever your choice is. You know, my head was in that toilet bowl, and I'm puking up green. And when I finally sobered up and had the stomach flu, and I start laughing in the bathroom because I'm throwing up, and I said, it has nothing to do with alcohol. I was so grateful for that because I got sick and tired of it. Because I went to any length to stay drunk. Anyway, I stopped drinking for the first time November the 15th, 1969, and got very active, and I started sponsoring women all over, it seemed, Southern California. I would go to the east side of LA, stop at the central office, pick up some more numbers, and bring them back to the west side because I wanted them to hear who I wanted them to hear. I'm directing their lives. Took one of my gals was an RN, her first 12-step call. She was 4 months sober. And this is very, very funny how I learned something because I tried to stay teachable. Till this day, I hope to learn something new, to walk out of here with something new, which I have. But I said, Slaith, you want to go on call with me? Oh, yes. So we get over in past the mid-Wilshire area, and I'm in Palms, and we walk into this, I knock on the door, and 3 dogs are barking. Now, if I don't know the dog, I'm not walking in. So I said, you get those dogs out in the yard or get them someplace. She said, give me 5 minutes. So after the 5 minutes, she said, okay, you can come on in. Now, when we walk in, there's candles. This furniture was outstanding, fabulous duplex, big old-fashioned Southern California duplex with gorgeous furniture, candles burnt to the wood. There was some kind of cult that lived there, the husband and the wife. I opened the refrigerator, and all there was dog food for these big dogs. This gal had a double king-size bed that was on the floor, but she had fifths of booze, and I'm talking about Jack Daniels. She had 100 proof of everything. There was nothing cheesy in there. She had a wall of clothes, and I'm not exaggerating, all on the floor. Nothing hanging. Hadn't had a bath. I can't tell you how long. Well, I said, Slaith, we're going to give her a bath before we take her out and get her some food. I started to put her in the tub, and she says, I'm going to lose my teeth, and I have to throw up. So I put my hand by her mouth. She threw up in it, and her false teeth came into my hand. Now, this is a young woman. And Salathi, who was in the nursing field, said, Lee, how do you do it? I said, how in the world do you work in a hospital and not clean up bedpans? I said, as long as it's not my own puke, I can do it. So I learned something. I hope someday or somewhere that you kids won't be afraid to do something like this, because it taught me a lot. It taught me how to get out of myself, because on a daily basis, all I heard were ambulances, the first year. Ambulances because of my son's death. Though I didn't hear the ambulances, but these were the nightmares I was having. And it was slowly that hole in my gut was getting a little smaller. Now, it hasn't completely gone away. Every Friday or Sunday we bring fresh flowers, and I don't throw myself on the grave anymore, but I like to have fresh flowers there. Well, I stayed sober for 23 months. I got into all the service because I loved it. Each meeting that I attended, I had some service. I either cleaned the ashtrays, or they called me the trusted servant. I was secretary, all through my sobriety. That kept me going to a meeting on a weekly basis. We were going to 14 meetings a week, 3 on Saturday and Sunday, going to outlying places, meeting people all over. I loved it. And then when I became secretaries of meetings, I needed to get, quote, speakers. Today I would like to say I call them people that share their experience, strength, and hope. And we're all speakers. We all have our stories. So to me, I'm not a main speaker. I have a story to tell you. My experience, strength, and hope, that of a woman like me who didn't come here to stop drinking, I came here to see what sober woman was going to take my husband away. Really. Because I knew what a sober woman looked like. The eyes sparkled, everything sparkled. But something happened in that 23 months. I was secretary of a Westwood meeting, and I had planned to drink in my 20th month. But I didn't want to drink yet. I knew I was going to drink, but I didn't want to drink yet because my ego was so sick that I thought my babies would go out and get drunk if I got drunk. That's the sick ego. I hadn't changed that. The steps didn't apply in that area. My ego was too sick. Anyway, I set up the meeting at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The meeting didn't start till 8. I put a note down telling the co-secretary that I wouldn't be there, and I finished a pint of booze and flew to Las Vegas and had my last drunk. And I realized, sitting at the bar in Vegas, October the 5th of 1971, the gift of sobriety was given back to me, because I wanted to be sober more than I wanted to be drunk. And I still, till this day, get these goosebumps because the gift was given back to me. But what I had to do is take a complete and truthful inventory, because in my first inventory, my 4th and 5th step, I left out a little bit to my sponsor. Well, and I called her up to tell her what I did, and that was in a 10-day period. She said, get over here with that inventory, and I laid out the whole schmear and got very, very honest, and that's when the program became a little easier. And in my 3rd year, someone walked over and said, Lee, do you have a facelift? I said, no. They said, well, you have become a little softer. I guess my first 23 months, I was hard. Well, I've got my wrinkles. No way. I mean, I'll never get rid of them because I love walking on the beach, and and I'm a swimmer, not as much as I used to. Anyway, I stopped drinking October 5th, had to change my old ideas of the perfectionist. I was the kind of a person that had cheese, bananas, oranges, crackers, because I thought that someone had not eaten for days and I was going to take care of them, and I had to start changing and allow other people, because I was the sole person that put up the coffee, 100 cuppers, cut up the fruits and vegetables, and I had to give other people a chance to give of themselves, not only me. It's not my program, it's our program. It's a we program, we care. Today my life is completely different, but mainly I'm sober. Both parents have Alzheimer's. I have caregivers. I have a husband who is a little ill, and if it wasn't for this fantastic program and these steps that were given to me as a gift, no way could I be standing here and sharing and sweating up here, But we're told that we can go up and down and up and down. And right now, I'm on an even. As long as my mother doesn't tell the darn caregiver, I don't like you, I'm in good shape. She's got a caregiver that she doesn't like. And I've gone through them, and I want to go away for a couple of days. I just want to go away. We want to go away for a couple of days, even around the block. But I want to thank, where are you sitting? Donna. She goes around bragging that when she was less than a week, I took her to a Salvation Army meeting and I had her read. See, I was directing at the time. No, but it was a good direction because she's got over 19 years now. She read her first chapter 5, and then Terry and Donna con us into coming here, but I conned Terry to bring us here. So it worked both ways, but I love Alcoholics Anonymous, and for the new people, please keep coming back, and most of all, get into action, get into service. That's what keeps me in good stead, and that whole little hole will never close up, but it gets better. Thank you.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down. And then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.